Today, we will learn how to use Minitest to test our Ruby applications. Minitest is a popular testing framework in Ruby, and it even comes default in Ruby on Rails. So we will learn how to use that in our Ruby applications. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to install our gem. So we can say gem install Minitest, and this will run and install our application, or rather our gem for us. And then once we have done that, we can make a directory here, and we'll just call this, let's just call this person, and then we change our directory into person, and we can open this up in Visual Studio Code. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a simple class here of person, and here we'll define some attributes and methods, and we'll test them. So the first thing that we want to do is we'll create our test file here, and we'll call this test person.rb. So this is where we will write our test for our person class. So what we can do is we can first require Minitest auto run, and then we can require our relative file for our person, even though we have not created a file yet. So we have that now. We have our required files that we'll need, and then we can go ahead and simply create a class here for test person, and this inherits from Minitest. And with that, we can save this here. So what we want to do is we want to run this and see what happens. If we click on run here, you can see it throws an error for us. It says require relative cannot load such file person. That's because we have not created our person file. So if we go ahead and we create a file called person.rb, and if we run this again, you can see now it tells us we have finished in so amount of time. We have 0 runs, 0 executations, 0 failures, 0 errors, and 0 skips. So now that we have this, we can go ahead and write our first test. So for our first test, we want our person to have a name. We want our person to have name, email, and let's say the person's social have age. So we'll go ahead and we will define our first test, and this will be test name. And here we want to test our name. So we can say, if we say person is equal to person.new, I want the name to be, let's say, Matt. So once we have done that, we can say assert equal, and this is the test method here from Minitest. Here we are doing a comparison test from what we want our output to be and the expected value. So what it is, we're comparing it to name. So if we go ahead and we run this, you can see I don't add a closing tag here, so we have an error. But if we go ahead and we run this now, you can see uninitialized constant test person.new. So let's head over to our person.rb file here, and let's create a class called person. Let me save this, and we actually come here and we run our test. We can see we have a different error here. It says argument error, wrong number of arguments given. Given 1, expected 0. So this is saying that we have not initialized our, we have not defined our name, our attribute for name. So we could go ahead and do that. So what we can do is, if we want to make this quick, we can say attribute accessor, and we specify our name, and then we can initialize this. We'll say our name, we'll set an instance variable to be equal to name. So now that we have done this and we save, we run this, you can see now we have one run, one execution. So our test is run successfully. So if we wanted, now we have a way to get and set our names. So our next step that we want to do is we want to define our age method. We want our person to have age. So we'll go ahead and write our test for that. And similarly, we'll say def test age. And now that we have done that, we can say person is equal to person.new. And we can give it a name here. And we can specify an age. And then we can say assert equal, and let's say we want our age, we want this to be person.age. So if we save this and we run this, we can see we have 2 runs, 1 hesitations, and 1 error. You can see here it says wrong number of arguments given to expected 1. So let's go over here and we'll add age here to our attribute accessors, and then we'll also add age here as the parameter, and we will also define our variable here for age. So we'll say age is equal to age. So we can save that now. If we come back here and we run this, you can see let's run it again. So we still have wrong number of arguments given, expected 1 on Ruby line 4. So if we check here, actually line 8 and here, if we check here in our first test, you can see we defined a person, but we not specified the age here in our initial test. And we can see there's a lot of repetition here. So Minitest allows us to use a custom method called setup, where we can define all our variables that we'll use in all our tests. So if we write def setup, here we can define our person, and we can say person.new, and we set the name to Matt before, so let's use that, and we set the age to 25. So we can go ahead and delete this here because we already have person defined in our setup here. And then we also have person defined here again, so we can delete this here. If we go ahead and save it now, so now that we have saved this, if we run this now, we can see we have a little error here. It's expected math, but actually got math 25. And this is because if we come here, I mistakenly put a comma here. So if we delete this and we save this and we run this once more, we can see we have finished. We have 2 runs, 2 exercitations. So everything is running up perfectly. So the next thing that we would like to test is our email. So similarly, we'll say test email, and we can say assert email, or rather assert equal, and let's just say empty at example.com. and we want this to be person.email. So what we're doing exactly with assert equal is we're making a comparison between these two values here. We want these two values to be equal to each other in order for the test to pass. If they were not equal, then there would be an error. It would throw a failure or an error. So if we run this now, you can see undefined method email. So if we come back here and we add, let's just copy this and we paste it here, empty out example, we save it and we run once more, undefined method.com for nil class. So what we can do now is we can head over to our person here. We can add this to our attributes, our email, and same thing that we did here, we'll add our email to our parameters here, and we'll come back here and we'll say email is equal to email once more. Our instance variable is equal to email, and we can come back here and we run this, and you can see we are still getting an error. So if we save it, if we actually save it and we run our file, we can see we have 3 runs, 3 assertions, 0 failures, 0 errors. So now that we have done that, if we change this here, if we add some D's here and we run this, you can see we have 1 failure here now. So we can see that expected this and it got this. So we can see it's making a comparison between these two values here when we use assert equal. So if we save it now, there we go. We have 3 runs, 3 assertions, and everything is running perfectly. So next up, we want our person to be able to greet. We want to define a method where we print out some characters, such as hello, my name is Matt, or something along those lines. So let's go ahead and define our test for that. We'll say def test greet, and then we can say assert equal, and let's just say hello, my name is, let's say, Matt, and we expect this to be equal to person.greet. So if we save this and we run this now, we can see no method error, undefined method greet for person. So what we can do is we can now come here and define our new method greet. So we save this after we have defined it here. If we run our test again, and here we see we have a different failure. We see expected hello, my name is Matt, but actually what we got was a nil. So we'll come back and we will update our greet method. So we can say hello, my name is, and then we want to actually use the name that's name of our person here. So we save this. If we come back here and we run this now, we can see we have 4 runs now, 4 assertions, 0 failure. So everything is running perfectly now. Everything is running as it should. So now we have defined a method that greets for us. So we also want to define another method here that uses, we want to check if we are old enough to, or let's check if the user is an adult first. So we want to say def test is adult. So here, what we want to do is, if the user is 18 or older than 18, we want to return true. We want to say that this person is an adult. So what we can simply say is assert at person is adult. And we have not yet defined this method yet. So let's run our test. If we run this now, you can see error here is adult. Undefined method is adult. So let's head over to our person and let us define our method here. So we'll say def is adult. And what we can do, we can simply say if our age is greater than or equal to 18. So if this is true, then this person is an adult. So if we come back here and we run our test, there we go. We have 5 runs and 5 assertions. So we can see this is running perfectly. So what we can do next is we can test if this person is not an adult. So for that, we'll use another method, and this is called refute. And refute is the direct opposite of assert. So we say def test is not adult. We can say, okay, let's create a new person, and we'll say person.new. We'll call her Jane. We'll say she is 12, and we'll say jane@gmail.com for her email. So what we want to do now is we want to refute if our person that is defined here in the above line is adult. Since she is 12 years old here as defined here, that means if we run this, and you can see I forgot to add the closing tag here. So if we run this, we have 6 runs and 6 assertions. So that means this refute statement is true. This person is not an adult. If we change this to assert and we run this, we can see is an undefined. If we spell this correctly and we run this, you can see now we have a failure. Is not an adult. Expected false to be truthy. So that means you can see we're expecting this person to be not an adult actually. So if we leave this as refute, and there we go. So this is a basic basic introduction of how to use Minitest. We looked at the refute method, we looked at asserts, and we looked at assert equal. So there are many more methods that we could use and we can learn using Minitest. But this is just an introduction.